G'day folks, Rod from My Water Filter here today, and what we're going to do is just have a look at the whole house triple, whole house twin, doesn't matter, same situation, whole house 10 inches high, doesn't matter, same situation, okay? Now, these systems are supposed to be installed by plumbers, and you won't find a lot of information on how to install one because you're supposed to be a plumber. But what I'm finding is, even some plumbers, maybe new to the game or whatever it might be, they're having a couple of hiccups and issues when they install them. So we're just going to make a quick video for you. When you buy a whole house, hopefully we'll get this video to you. Feel free to share it with your plumber. If you don't want any issues, mistakes, painful mistakes and time without water in your house, etc., give him this video to have a look at. Okay, now what can happen with a whole house video, water filter, is the first thing that comes to my mind is you've got a 1-inch BSP thread on this end and a 1-inch BSP thread on that end. Now, when a pipe or a product or an elbow or a nipple or whatever is screwed into this situation here, into this hole, it's called thread tape. And you wrap the thread tape around it and you screw it on. Everybody knows it, everybody's heard about it. This is a plastic top. They're good and strong, they've been around for years, they never falter, they're magnificent. But you cannot, I repeat, you must not use a sealant around the product that you're screwing into these caps, okay? Thread tape, that is it. If you're putting steel to steel, go for your life. Use as much sealant as you want, but you cannot use sealant on plastic. It expands and it can crack these heads. I've had them crack before, okay? So, customer will come in, the water filter's no good, it's leaking. Let's have a look at it. This fitting's fine, this one's fine, this one's fine, this one's fine, but on each end, the water's leaking out. Why? Because they've sealed it up with sealant, it's expanded, it's put a crack in it, and now we've got to weep, now we've got to pull the whole thing apart and fix it up. So just mention to the plumber, thread tape, and he'll be onto it. Our Australian plumbers are fantastic. So he'll fix that up for you, be good to go. The water in these systems runs this way, from left to right, okay? It comes in, fills the housing, penetrates through the cartridge, gets to the center core, comes up through the center core, drops over into the next one. They're all the same, these, just replicated. And what you'll find is that water's going to flow left to right. If you get to your house and you need it to flow from right to left the other way for some reason, it's not a problem. This stainless steel top, or if it's a white painted top, they will come off. So you can simply undo these bolts that are on the top, take the plate off, spin it around, put it back on, and then you're good to go, okay? You can't just run the water in that end if you want to and run it from right to left. You must turn the bracket around or it's just not going to be working. You'll be pushing your water out through your cartridges instead of the water penetrating through getting filtered, all right? Gauges on the top, they're great. They give you a bit of an idea what the filter's doing, how it's performing, etc. Once again, don't put any seal on them, please. Just a little bit of thread tape to seal them up, and take your time. They are brand new, it is tight. When you go to screw the gauge in, if you give it a turn or two and it's getting a bit of friction and it's stiff and it doesn't want to go, don't keep forcing it. Wind it back out. Take your time, make sure it's level, make sure you're screwing it into the thread there. As you can see, I just screwed these in a minute ago. They go in perfectly every time. There's never an issue unless you're in a hurry, you're not paying attention, and you cross thread it and you keep screwing it in and just strip it and stuff it up, okay? It becomes painful for everybody. Got to pull it apart, put a new cap on, fix it up, okay? Apart from that, they're absolutely gold, all right? They work an absolute treat. Cartridges on the inside. They've got to be straight, okay? When these are new, these cylinders, the housings, they screw off very, very easily, okay? So you screw them off and make sure the cartridge is inserted inside properly, the plastic's taken off it, and it's good to go. You'll have a sediment cartridge in the very first cylinder all the time, and when we put it in, there's a little riser on the bottom here that sits up inside the hole in the cartridge, and you hold the cartridge not nice and centre and you screw it up. You can screw it up by hand. There's no reason to use the cartridge tool until it's all screwed up in place. if you've got your cartridge inside and you're screwing this housing by hand and then it starts to get stiff, and you get your cartridge tool and you start pulling it on with a cartridge tool, there's a little round stump in the top. And what you're doing when you're forcing it on, you're forcing that stump into the top of the cartridge, and you will crack it and break it. I'll show you a carbon in a minute. But this is the sediment, and if it's off center or something like that, you're just not sitting it into the right place. So there is a seat at the bottom, there is a seat at the top, and we screw them up nice and gently by hand. They just go up beautifully if you do it straight. Once it's up and screwed up, then you put the cartridge tool on and you just turn it an inch or two to nip it up. You don't just keep screwing it. As soon as it's up, it's good to go. And they work a treat, these things. In these two, you're going to find carbon. Now I've got a carbon cartridge here and I'll show you what happens. This is the good end. It's got the washer on, and as you can see, it looks perfectly. We'll take the housing off. There's a stem in the bottom. That'll fit on it, and then we'll start to screw it up. Now, if you centralise the cartridge nicely, that hole will just sit up into the stem at the top and it'll lock it in place and it'll work a treat. If it's off on an angle to the side and the stem in the top hits on the side of the cartridge and not the centre hole, I'm sure you can see the difference between that and that. So if you ring me up and say, "Oh Rod, I've broken into my cartridge," I will know why. That's exactly what happens to them, okay? So take your time. If you're screwing it up by hand and then it doesn't want to go any further, give it a rattle and it'll fall into place, and then you'll be able to screw it up. But if you screw it up by hand and then it stops and gets stuck and you get that cartridge tool out and you start yanking on the tool, that's what your cartridge is going to look like. It'll have a hole in it, okay? So let's just remember that little one there. With the whole house water filter, sediment, perfect at removing it. Chlorine, perfect at removing it with the carbon. Unfortunately nowadays our water's not as good as it used to be. Depends where you live in Australia possibly, but generally there's a lot of states that are using a lot of bore water. We get a lot of mineral in the water. So the calcium is just going crazy, the magnesium is just going crazy, destroying bathrooms, hot water systems, you name it, the list goes on. $800 a year more expensive to live in a hard water house than a soft water house. So what we do nowadays, because the mineral just goes straight through these things, what we'll do is apply a device to break it down, to treat the mineral. The filter will look after the water, the chlorine and the chemical, but we've got to treat the mineral with a different device. And what we'll generally use is the Limetron Hard Water Conditioner. 1/2 inch size, 3/4 ends, perfect for Australian water. If you've got bore water, you've got mineral in your water, okay? It'll treat it, it'll sort it out, it'll stop you costing you a lot of money every year. Now, what we would do, what I'd say to the plumber is, if you, let's say you're in Melbourne, you're probably not going to need one of these. It's not too bad down that way. There's a few pockets and parts, but normally you're pretty good in Melbourne. If you're in WA, South Australia, Alice Springs, the top of Queensland, you're probably going to need one of these. Once again, in those areas, there'll be a few pockets where you won't need one, but the majority of those houses needs to have a Limetron on it. Just about every house in those states needs to have one of these Limetron. Northern Western Australia, this thing will save you a mint, make your house and all your appliances work much, much better. So we'll normally put the Limetron on first. Incoming water, direction of flow through the Limetron, treat the mineral, then we go through the water filter, sediment, carbon comes out the other side and she's looking good, okay? And you can use it like that. Yes, it's good enough if that's what you'd like to do. But what's happening? The government's throwing the chemical into the water. When it does that, oxygen dissipates out of the water. The molecules lock up together. They all cluster up together. They pump it to our homes. And when we go to the kitchen tap and get a glass of water, what do you got? A glass of water and all the molecules are locked up together. You drink it, you can't absorb it, molecular structure's too large, half dehydrated most of the time. Hence, we use the Home Edge. Great little device. Breaks up the molecular structure, lightens up the water, hydrate much better, okay? Gardens love it too, all right? So we'll run the water through it, and on the outside, on the outflowing side, then we'll run it through the Home Edge and we'll treat the water, and it's good to flow into your house and you'll be good to go. If you're in Melbourne, if you don't need a Limetron, if you've only just got mild lime scale, this will look after it. So you can sometimes get away without the Limetron. If that's the case, and you're just going for a whole house water filter with a home edge, put the home edge on before the water filter, okay? Let's run the water through it. Let's open up the molecular structure of the water. Let's let the cartridges inside the water filter trap and hold back as much of that garbage as you can, so we get the best water flowing into your house as we can. This thing here creates amazing showers. Have a chat to your plumber, make sure he knows what he's doing. If he doesn't, talk to us. But apart from that, it's pretty plain sailing. It's great on this side, on the inlet side, and the other side, the outlet side, to have an on-off ball valve, okay? Now, I don't know whether you're going to run your pipe straight along the wall, or you're coming up from the ground, or down from the roof. I've seen these filters installed in so many positions you can't believe it. So I never know what you're going to do with it. But it doesn't matter. It's still good to have an on-off tap on this side and an on-off tap on that side, so you can isolate both sides anytime you want. Work on it, have a look on it, even once a year when you go to change your cartridges. Just too simple. Turn off the water, turn on a tap, drop the pressure, and then take off the housings and changes your cartridges, and you're good to go. Okay, so stick with that, and I wish you luck. They are worth the effort. If you need a hand, give us a ring, and we'll always be there for you. Thank you.